missed the session or want to check in with it after, then it will be available for them at that time. So just want to say thanks to everybody for joining today. And before we begin, I just want to begin the webinar today by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all lands that we are on today. While we meet on a virtual platform, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we each call home. And we do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. So wherever you join from today, I would encourage you to spend some time looking up the history of the land that you reside on. So we have a great discussion today talking about next generation asset managers. So hopefully there's lots of people on the call looking to dive into that topic. But just want to open with a couple of events that the IAM is hosting over the next little while. So first want to highlight the North American Conference hosted by the IAM. That's going to be in Denver from October 21st to 24th. The abstract submissions are now closed, but stay tuned for the program to be released within the next couple of months. The early bird pricing goes till June 28th, so would recommend to book over the next month. As well, for that conference, there are award categories that are currently open for submissions. First is the Corporate and Organizational Transformation Award. The next one is the Next Gen Award. There's one on Digital Innovation, and there's another one on Outstanding Asset Management Leadership. So you can go to the IAM website and you'll find a link to where you can submit an application. And I'll put a link in the chat to where you can do that. Also want to highlight the launch of the Global Forum for Maintenance and Asset Management, their updated landscape. So there's some significant changes to the previous version of the landscape, and there's going to be a webinar on June 5th. And I'll post a link to where you can register for that webinar in the chat as well. We want to host more events on topics that are relevant to you, the Next Gen community. So if you have ideas for events, please send them via email to myself, and I'll put my email in the chat as well. Awesome. So those are my updates for the IAM as a whole. So we'll jump into the discussion today. So before we jump into the questions, though, just want to first start with the discussion today. Will focus on each of the panelists' role in managing assets. So we want to just provide a definition of what are assets for those that might be kind of new to the industry overall. So assets are defined as anything that has value to an organization. So in most cases, we're thinking of these in terms of physical assets. So, and we have panelists coming from different parts of industry today. So the private sector, which Echo is representing, they own and operate assets that are funded privately. We have public sector representation, who's BB, and they have assets that are publicly funded. We have asset management technology provider, which is Luke, and they provide technology to public and private organizations to support managing their assets. And then we have a consultant here, Francis, who the consulting space in asset management, they support improvement in asset management practices within public and private sector organizations. So it's kind of an overview of the different areas that we'll be diving into today. But want to turn it over to our panelists just to talk through what's your name, where do you work, and provide a little bit of a description of what you do in your day job. So let's start with Echo, and we'll go to Luke, BB, and then Francis after that.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Eric. So hello, everyone. My name is Echo, and I currently work for a company named called Enrich Inc. It's actually a multi-international organization that's currently traded publicly on the New York Stock Exchange market. I fall into the business unit where it is actually the utility sector, where we provide the natural gas for all the residents in the province of Ontario. My primary role is actually in the capital governance side of things, where my role is making sure our asset strategy regarding to our physical asset to support the safe and in time and also the making sure our level of service meet the customer expectation, that everything is in the asset plan. We do land it, we actually implement it, we do what we say, and we say what we do. So that's my primary role right now. And that's it. That's about me. Back to you, Eric.
I'll take over, Eric. That's fine. Thanks, Echo. So yeah, Luke Percival. I am a delivery lead for a company called Arcadis, and what that effectively extends out to is I support companies with the implementation of our asset investment planning software, which is called Enterprise Decision Analytics, and what that allows us to do is help customers to work out where they should best spend their money across their asset portfolio. So whether it's in terms of asset maintenance activities such as replacements and refurbishments, or out into full kind of capital projects, helping them with net zero transition and things like that as well. We cover many geographies, many different industries, very flexible kind of range of software and consultants supporting it. And as a result, we've had a lot of success over our last 20 years. BB, I'll pass on to you.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, so I'm BB Edebaya. I work in TransLink as an asset management specialist. TransLink is a transit agency in Vancouver. Primary role in asset management, primarily developing asset renewal plans, also just doing some business value assessment in capital projects, ranging from rail, bus, tech, transit police and co, and just generally management of assets and ensuring they're in a state of good repair. I'll pass it on to Francis. Thanks.
Thanks, BB. So I'm Francis Noël Bouvet. I work for Nordast LO, which is a consulting firm in asset management and in engineering. So we work with all kinds of public and private organizations to help them implement their asset management system. So we have several clients, the public sector, such as bridges, ports, the Montreal Transit companies, hospitals, and also several municipalities and cities of all sizes throughout Canada.
Great, thanks for that introduction. So we'll jump into the questions that we've prepared here today. So we'll go in reverse order we'll kind of snake through the group again. So what does your career in asset management look like? So kind of walking through your education, your career path to what it looks like today. So we'll start with Francis there.
Yes, so what's interesting about asset management is that people come from different sectors and they're totally different backgrounds. So that's probably my case too. So I started my career in a very technical field, which is a technician in mechanical engineering. So then my career started when I was hired by the city, which is the city of Trois-Rivières, which led me to diversify, basically doing a lot more of planning and project management, all the kind of field. So then there was a significant need for asset management in the city, and they had some experience that failed to implement asset management. So I was asked to tackle the problem. So that's what started my journey in asset management. I started working specifically on developing the asset management for the building sector. So gathering knowledge about the assets, surveying the building, their ages, composition of system, etc. So and all doing this while keeping the strategic perspective on all this. So from the beginning, I was really interested in the strategic aspects that asset management brings. So building an information management system that will endure over time and that will provide the necessary tactical level for making decisions. So we were successful, fortunately, with the work done. So the city decided to broaden the scope of asset management to all other types of assets. So that leads us to work with facilities for water treatment, vehicles, natural assets, IT systems, so a broad range. So about 3 years ago, I wanted to do more in asset management, and unfortunately, the city perhaps had a less ambitious plan. So at that point, I was approached by a private firm, which was Planifica, and that was acquired by Nordastelo to work 100% of my time in asset management. So we became consultant. And as I mentioned, we advise all kinds of public and private organization to implement asset management in their organization. So it's really diverse work now, changes a lot, and it's exciting because I can see the impact that we have when we work with our clients. So that was my joy.
Thanks, Francis. BB, over to you.
Oh, hi. Yeah, so my education was in engineering. I finished, I worked in manufacturing first, but I had some interest. I started gaining some interest in public sector, just particularly because I see that that supports a lot of people's daily lives. My interest lingered, and I moved down here from Winnipeg, where I did my bachelor's. I moved down here, did a master's. Then I started going into project management, asset management. I got a little bit of interest there, so I started targeting companies like TransLink and BC Hydro that particularly. But I came, and luckily for me, I landed a job in TransLink. So when I came in initially into TransLink, that was like my first asset management role. I had a very limited asset management knowledge, but I gained quite a lot of insight and better understanding, and also understood the downstream effects and importance of asset management over time, right? Because you say there's bosses on the road, but you don't know what goes behind, what effort and exercise go happen behind. So so it's very much doable. I just want to just put that out there for anyone who is probably new or has some interest to asset management. And it's been a very great journey so far. We've done a lot, tested a lot of innovative approach, hired a lot of consultants, done a lot of good initiatives. So currently, just from no plans, I've seen asset management grow from having no asset renewal plans to having some, to even maturing our program day by day. So that's I think that's it from my end. Yeah. Thanks. Back to you, Eric.
So we'll turn it over to Luke.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, so for me, of course, working for an asset investment planning company, I've worked there for the past 9 years now, since I graduated from university, where I kind of majored more in mathematics and data science. At the time, we were a very small company, just about 30 people. We supported just the UK kind of water sector in terms of helping them create business plans to give to the regulator, ensuring that they were meeting the various targets that they were being asked for by their regulator. The reason why I joined the company at the time was because they wanted to focus quite heavily on the data science element. So doing failure predictions, data quality assessments, and so on, which a lot of organizations that we work with don't really have skills in-house in certain cases to do those types of assessments. So for us, that was an initial thing that we got a lot of kind of standing with through our software. Through time, of course, I came in as a data analyst. That meant that I was doing quite a lot of the kind of grunt work back then of doing lots of scripting with things like R and Python and other types of languages that people use. But through time, due to certain things happening within the organization, started leading projects after a couple of years. So it was a very quick kind of move up the ranks within the organization, because of the fact that we were such a small company. And if you showed that you could do a good job, then you moved up the company. And now, through time, it's meant that I've worked in Australia, or with companies out in Australia, the US, Canada, Denmark, and back here in my homeland in the UK. And through that, worked with kind of transportation authorities, utilities, real estate providers, lots of different organizations that we've worked with through time. And effectively, what we do, and what I've kind of developed skills with, is using our software to, again, like I say, help them create those business plans and help them to understand why our software is making the decisions that it's making based on the targets that they're trying to achieve. Now I'm a delivery lead, which effectively means that I provide technical oversight on our projects, so I don't really get down into the detail as much anymore, but instead provide more of that consultancy layer over the top, in terms of helping with ongoing pursuits and demonstrations to our customers, as well as helping inform our product roadmap so it meets further asset management and innovation requirements that our customers have. Echo, I'll pass on to you.
Thank you very much, Luke. So my career has been a little bit more jumping everywhere. I went to school for aerospace engineering, and after graduation, I joined the Canadian federal government as part of their defense team to support military aircrafts. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon asset management. If there's anyone in the audience work on aircraft, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like, it's a very, very asset heavy, that kind of work. And plus, it's a very fragile asset. You drop a pin or needle on the aircraft, it breaks and it cannot fly. So what we do is that we start taking out a broader approach. What is the life cycle of aircraft look like, and what does it need to do? Like, what does it take to meet its level of service? So it typically start like, here's a fleet of aircraft, here's your configuration, and you need to meet how many flight cycle, how many flight hour, how many flight mission per year and now figure out what does it take to reach there, like how many pilot you need, how many flight engineer, how many technician, what is your supply chain, what is your budget, what is your support, what is your corrective and preventative maintenance program, yada yada, and that kind of stuff. So it's very, I would say, it's an ecosystem, and it's a monster, and that was the world that I kind of stumbled upon at the very early in my career, and I kind of grew up in that. So start moving around, started with a junior engineer, just looking at like technical bulletin, and then start doing the transfer, climbing the ladder, and eventually led into like, okay, I'm in charge of maintenance program, and I'm looking at capital project. What can we do to looking at update certain system to kind of like improve the flying hour? That's what it essentially comes down to. Then after that, I started migrating to the private sector. So I joined a manufacturing facility, and that is also a very capital heavy and financial heavy as well. The sensitivity around financial and your profitability is really enormous. It's a huge cultural shift, and you have to really adapt to thriving there. And that's where I start to navigate what is the different kind of a specialization you can do in asset management. And I stumbled upon the opportunity at Enbridge, and I kind of made a transition. Because there are like, it's really I would say a wide universal framework in asset management. You can apply to many different type of physical asset, and as long as you found a path to contribute to a vision or a future or something that you feel strongly about, passionate about, or have high level of interest, then it will open many opportunities, and then skill set are transferable. And you can make that transition to kind of chase your dream, for lack of a better term, and to be a little bit cliche. So where I am right now at Enbridge is we're in the utility sector. People need energy, and we're looking at a way to how to deliver that energy to the consumer. And we want to do it not just in the old-fashioned way, but also prepare for the future, because we know that Earth is becoming warmer. and how we consume energy in the old methodology might not prepare us in the best manner to kind of just embrace the future. So we got to change the way we're doing, and we're part of the journey to figure out how is that future look like. And that's where I'm at now. And I'm very happy and I'm very glad that I can be a small team player in that kind of journey. And I wish that I just my current plan is just like continue to be part of that team effort and just walk down, see where the future lead me. That's what I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Echo. And thanks to everyone else on the panel. I think one of the things that came through for me is that everyone's got a very different career path to do asset management. And I think that really echoes through in many different people that I speak to that do asset management in the various areas that we have representation from today, is that you don't need a specific background to get into asset management. I think you really just need a hunger to learn and to grow and to expand your knowledge. And you got to be passionate about assets. And that's the most important thing. Just want to flag as well that if you have any questions from people in the audience, feel free to type them into the question bar or to the chat, and then we'll include them as part of this discussion. So want to shift gears a little bit to talk about key people or resources that helped you in your asset management journey. So talk to specific people or resources, and then what did they provide to you that was really valuable support? Maybe we'll start with Luke.
That is absolutely fine. Yeah. So for me, working in software and kind of being on kind of having two sides of the coin where we've got people internal to our organization and then people external as well. So I guess there's two key facets to that, because internally, as we've grown as a company and as people, we've of course got people from all different backgrounds. We've got people in software development, people who can do the consulting side, things like that within the business. But we also bring in, we've also brought in through time consultants who from other organizations, and also people who have lived and breathed the actual day-to-day life of being an asset manager for the organizations that we work with. So I always remember one guy that I used to work with, fortunately doesn't work with us anymore, but a very clever guy who worked for Transport for London and had created their asset management plan about 10 years ago. He came in and kind of changed the way that we thought about what we were doing, making sure that it was kind of more centered around asset management rather than just being a company that works with data and gives a company a result effectively. Externally as well, of course, you can learn a lot by working with many different organizations. Every organization is different in terms of its maturity, its data, the way that it thinks about asset management as well. So for us, with some of by working in software, you'll have implementations that might have only last 2 or 3 weeks. You'll have others that might last 2 or 3 years. And in those larger engagements, you'll of course develop quite good relationships with certain people in that organization. You might go and work with them through time, actually in their offices. And as a result, you're learning more than just working with their data. You're actually learning more about their business logic, why they're investing in the assets they're investing, things around their key performance indicators and drivers as to why they're doing asset management. So for me, it's kind of amalgamating kind of both internally and external people to help us in our journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke. Francis?
Yes, on my side, firstly, the managers at the city of Trois-Rivières, when I first began working in asset management, I want to take them because they trust me and the team, even if we were people who didn't have a significant background in asset management. But they believe in us. It's our passion, like you said, that we want to learn, which allowed us to train in asset management and do a good work. And after that, when I moved to private sector with Nordas Delo, I had extraordinary mentors. Maybe some of you know Bernard Gaudreau and others like Laurent Bouchard. So these people, they have a lot of experience in asset management, and they are not afraid to put us in the spotlight. Sometimes they have a technique of throw us in the pool and see if we could swim, but they're not far behind to give us support. So they are great leaders, and we learn a bunch from them. And we also have the chance to work with many retirees who had worked in the past in asset management in many industries. So they are now working part-time with us. So they bring decades of experience and a valuable perspective and wisdom on asset management. So they just not provide the technical insight, but also advice on how to approach people, how to implement change management and efficiency way, how to communicate properly. So all those soft skills that are really valuable to achieve results. So I have been fortunate to be surrounded by great people.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing, Francis. Echo, do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a little bit fortunate. I walk into an organization that's fairly mature in terms of asset management. So one of their pillar, the human talent, what they did is that they have a very well established program where any junior person, especially the junior person with the ambition to step into leadership role down in their career, they pair them up with someone who come from the rank. So on an aircraft, I got paired with a really, really seasoned worker who who are also in a leadership position, but he told me like he didn't really join the organization like me, took the shortcut. He used a quotation mark. He came from the rank. He graduated from high school. He joined the organization and he started as the cleaner in the hangar, and then started migrating it and working on the aircraft technician, get certification, got into leadership and step up. So he got paired with me. The whole idea is that I look at things from a fresh perspective. I will have a lot of the crazy out of box idea, but he should be my anchor to keep me grounded, making sure I don't piss people off without knowing it, making sure I don't jump to the conclusion too fast, making sure that I will develop the right soft skill and the interpersonal skill that not only think I'm right, but also making sure I approach people to the right manner so they will actually listen to me. And so that kind of mentorship is actually baked into organizations' talent management. So that helped me quite a bit. And particularly, it taught me the skill set like how do I learn from others? What is the right way to keep myself on the ground, self-checked, and then approach others to kind of be like a sponge to absorb their insight, absorb their expertise and their experiences, so I can take that information because they did work for me already. I just have to take it, bring it to the next level. That kind of helped me in my career quite a bit. So when I'm in a new environment, I keep my eye open, looking for that person that I can lean on to be my anchor, trust that person, work with that person, and start navigating things. Because in asset management, technical information is there, you need those expertise. But what I personally found is that it's a very soft skill driven career. So if you want to accomplish something, you can't get there alone. You need to find teammate. And then the more teammate you found, the higher chance of success you have. So that's my learning journey. I find that's very valuable to find that anchor in your professional life that can keep you in balance, keep you in check, and making sure you don't get over into your head and then you become one of those, lack of better description, like Sheldon, to piss people off. So that's very valuable.
That's great. Thanks, Echo. I turn it over to Bibi.
Yeah, so so for me, I've actually been in manufacturing before, and now asset management. So they're two kind of like distinct industries. In manufacturing, I was usually into process improvement. So we were the interface between the engineering and the shop floor guys, like the production staff. So key people in those were like the technicians, the floor guys, daily operators of our equipment, and just so that you can understand what you're improving. If you need to understand the current situation. So doing process improvement you need to understand the current process, you need to understand the lags, you need to understand the root cause, and that helps you in improving the process. So a lot of discussions with these people and understanding where their difficulties lie, and just helping make their jobs easier, right? Secondly, if you don't do all this dialogue, you can come up with a process, but change management is also another difficult stage of it. So when manufacturing, just interacting with people, especially people that your job is impacting, was very key to me. Um, Another thing was in regards to my asset management career. When I first joined, I had very little to no knowledge on asset management. First thing was there's an asset advisory consultant, so I had to sort of like I had a lot of extended discussions with him, just getting to know what different approaches have been done within our enterprise and why, um, so just understanding process changes and driver behind certain changes, and what approaches have been done with different pilot programs. Now, looking at another key person is my manager. I get a lot of brilliant ideas from him because he's been in the industry for a long time. Secondly, he's also worked in different industries, so which are like almost the same asset management driven. And he also has a wide reach and knowledge about in the enterprise because he's involved in a lot of meetings. For instance, he's involved in the investment plan, where you get more finance and planning dominated folks. Also involved in CMC meetings. That's where you see like the project oversight group present details and plans about their individual projects. So just having that dialogue, constant dialogue on how to drive asset management daily, I think that's very key too. Second one is asset operators. They're key people that help in my journey, just interacting with them, understanding certain assets and how they work. And because we have about 18,000 assets within TransLink, so just understanding some fleet assets to even the systems, or just understanding why it's needed and how they integrate with our wider system. And this also helps just when I'm developing my asset renewal plans and just getting some asset information like age, condition, performance, location, and things like that. Those are people who have helped in my asset career and prior. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe you might have to check if your building's on fire or not.
No, it's over. I live close to the hospital. That's why. So
No,
this paramedics guys
that's all good. So I think that's a great perspective. I think what I heard through there is that you have kind of two levels of people that have impacted. You have the people that are kind of higher than you in the organization, and then the people that more the operational folks that are kind of doing a lot of the maintenance and operations activities, and building relationships with both of those kind of levels of the organization has been really valuable for everyone. So that's really great to share. Thanks for the insight there. So that's awesome. And just a reminder to some people that have recently joined, if there's specific questions that you want to ask the panel, please include them in the chat or in the question box, and we'll be sure to add them to the discussion. So just want to speak to ask if there's any specific training that has been really valuable for you as you develop your asset management skills. So we'll turn this one over to Echo first.
That's a good question because all my skill set is kind of a slow progression, like a Lego, one builds upon the other. And looking back, I think the best training that I got is a little bit informal. I had a management push me to get my MBA, and I'll be honest, at the time, wasn't that interested in it, and I was like kind of stacking mentality. Focus on, I want to learn about jet engine, I want to know the performance, I want to know the reliability. Why are you asking me to go get my MBA? But I got a push and I got a kick in the rear end, for lack of a better term, and I went ahead and get it anyways. And I really appreciated that that push, and I definitely appreciated that training because what it ended up happening is that it opened my horizon and it opened up my frame of assessment when I attack a problem, where it shows me that there's like bigger picture and like just because I think this is the one layer of the cause for the problem doesn't mean that's the root cause, and there's different components have to come in to make it work. And particularly, I get appreciation on talent management and HR work, and because you need people to do the job and how to interact with that. So it kind of goes back to the soft skill per se. The other one I really appreciate is actually on the manufacturing side. So I took Lean Six Sigma training all the way up to the black belt as well. Originally, I was just looking at simplifying the process to making sure I can increase the range time of technicians. So in a way, my aircraft downtime it's dropped, and I can increase flight time. So it's very like goal oriented or result driven, that type of training approach. But however, what it allowed me to learn and appreciate it is process. So how do you look at things from a process perspective? If you interrupt a process at the upstream, how is it going to ripple and impact towards your downstream? How is the end-to-end thing is going to look? So just because you resolve a bottleneck on one end, are you creating another bottleneck downstream, or you're actually solving the root of the problem and you increase capacity overall? So that really helped me from like actually troubleshooting from a technical perspective. So those are the two training I really do appreciate, that I got the right push at the right time, and I got the kick that I need to take those training, and those are very valuable, and I think I'll have them to help with my career for the rest of my life.
That's great. Thanks, Echo. Thanks for sharing. Francis, do you want to share?
Yes, sure. Like Echo, like the work experience itself progressively added to my skills, but there was a lot of self-training, also self-learning from my part, like reading the different documents from IAM, like anatomy, for example, and also researching various articles to develop my skills. And on a more structured level, I participated in a program provided by NAMS Canada, which originated from the IPWEA in Australia, that is focused on asset management. And additionally to that, I completed a micro program in risk management at the Université Laval here in Quebec. So that was a crucial need when I was working for the city, and it was a really enriching experience to gain the capacity in risk management, which is closely linked to asset management. So with that, I gave me the necessary skills to develop further in asset management with that course. So that was my professional development.
That's great. Thanks, Francis. And Bibi?
Yeah. Certain certifications I think have helped, and even just background education. My bachelor's just makes me think very critically and just assessing the situation in a very also applying safety to my asset management approach. Definitely, master's MBA helped me also with people skills, finance, strategy. Then currently starting my asset management career, I did an asset management certificate course with NAMS Canada. Made me understand why asset management is necessary. Just making me understand like asset life cycle from acquisition to disposal and individual metrics and drivers, and also just why you need to balance cost, risk, and performance, making appropriate trade-offs. An example is within my enterprise, for instance, just for the trade-off, we developed a DST framework, just decision support tool helping us in prioritization. Because when different projects come forward, then you need to know how to prioritize, which one goes forward. The business need is one, but the priority is also another layer to it. So you need to kind of like integrate those two and just decide on what needs to go forward and what can be delayed or deferred. I think and just steady interaction with people just keeps seeing, getting to know what's changing within the industry and just switching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's great.
it for me.
Thanks, Bibi. Luke?
Yeah, I think for us in software, and BB's just talked a little bit about it there in terms of decision support tools, because that's effectively what we do. And when it comes to supporting customers with decision support, there's more than just needing to understand asset management to allow us to do that. So for me, the data science and mathematics side helps. There's also things around economics to make sure you're doing the right things financially, as well as, of course, IT skills and things like that around deploying the software and integrations with other systems that customers have and things like that to get them working as day-to-day kind of processes within those organizations. And for us, of course, there's lots of things there. There's lots of things we need to know, but back when I first started, the only one of those I had any skills in was the mathematics side. So through time, of course, you learn a lot on the job. You'll learn various things by just working with senior consultants and so on within the business. We've also, of course, as most companies do, have budgets for formal training, which you can choose to use on whatever you'd like to use. For me at the start, I used it primarily to improve my kind of statistical skills further, to help with machine learning and all the other things, innovative things that have come through time. But now I actually invest that into actually things to do with the Institute of Asset Management and understanding more around asset management consultancy, just because of where my kind of career has gone. And I guess in our organization, it's you're kind of free to kind of pick and choose what you think your skill gaps are across that. And of course, we have people that now from many different kind of backgrounds and so on. So I remember my old line manager had a degree in zoology, which you would not expect as something that goes into helping customers prioritize their actions. But actually, it kind of works slightly in terms of one of the solvers that we have as well. We've also got people who've done degrees in things like geography. And again, knowing things like GIS systems and so on can all help in terms of asset management. They all come together. So again, any different backgrounds could all kind of complement each other in terms of what we do, both in asset management and in terms of the kind of the software side and decision support as well.
Hmm. Yeah, these are great perspectives. So really thank everyone for sharing that. And I think one of the big things as well is that training never stops throughout your career. It's a lifelong journey that we're on here to improve and advance and diversify our asset management skills. So that would be a recommendation to the attendees that are listening, that as things change without your career, like you said, Luke, and your needs in training might change. So be open to exploring different things as well. That's awesome. So the last question I have to the whole panel before we start doing a little bit of individual questions is, what advice would you have for someone early on in their asset management career? And we'll start with Luke on this one.
No problem. Yeah, I think the main thing I always talk to, and I talk to this quite a lot with kind of junior consultants that we have coming into our organization now, is of course, with what we do in our organization, we have to present to customers, we need to present findings, do software demonstrations, those types of things. And I think one thing I've always learned is don't be nervous with that type of stuff. Of course, you might be going in, you're doing a 2-hour demonstration to someone, things might break when they might have bugs and things as you're going through. That all that has got better through time. But you can only prepare as much as you can for doing those sorts of presentations, and being nervous is actually caring about what you're about to do, and showing that you've done a good job as well. And I think the second thing for me is of course around what I've just talked about as well, where of course you won't know everything for what you need to go into. You'll have a background in a certain area that you're looking to do. That area is applicable in one way or another to asset management as well. And of course, as we've just talked about, you can learn through time and get other skills as you progress through your career.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Luke. We'll turn it over to Echo.
Okay, thank you. So for me, I just want to focus on two things. So first, I give advice that um, just always remember you don't know what you don't know, and everyone's in the same boat, regardless of your junior or your mid-career or your senior. It's be really conscious that you sometimes it's not about what you know or what you don't know. It's simply you just don't even know what you don't know. So keep that at the back of your head and approach things with a little bit of caution and listen to the feedback more actively. So when people are, especially when you encounter barriers, try to pushing agenda. Listen actively. Don't think about the rebuttal when people are mentioning like they don't like it or they have concerns, and then you think about what to go after them. But just listen actively because it really comes down to you don't know what you don't know. The second thing is just be patient because a career in asset management is a marathon, not a sprint. Everyone goes at their own pace. Everyone has to find their own path and their own passion and what that vision or that future they wanted to participate and contribute towards. It might not be so clear at the beginning of the career. Like I thought I was gonna work on aircraft for the rest of my career, but I'm not. So it happens. So be a little bit patient. Just doesn't just because you don't have it right away, it doesn't mean it won't come later on. So easier said than done because patience is a virtue. I personally don't have any, but still be patient, and then the right time will come.
That's great, Echo. Thanks for sharing. Francis?
Yeah, like Luke and Echo just mentioned, for me, my first advice would be don't be afraid to ask questions and to be curious, to acquire knowledge, stay informed as much as possible. And secondly, there's really a lot of things to learn. As management is a vast field of study. So one thing to acquire early on would be to have an understanding of the big picture of the asset management, to focus maybe on the why things are done, why we work on asset management, or why we focus on asset knowledge, why we focus on decision-making process, and keeping in mind the purpose of these activities. So, this understanding will guide you how we build things for our organization or for our clients. So never lose sight of this big picture. So we often talk about the value generation in asset management. So what does that mean? How can I help the organization build systems that truly brings value to them? So that's my advice.
Great. Thanks, Francis. BB, over to you.
Yeah, so first off, I would just say, being that we all fall under this different kind of industries, I would just say mine from the public space, public sector space. The first one is just socializing with within the enterprise. My enterprise is quite large, and we have operating companies, so it's key to understand people you need to dialogue with in the different operating companies. We have the rail, we have the bus, like the transit police, and so on. Yeah, so just understanding people's expectations, and it's easier for buying when you're adopting like a new approach, right, in asset management. Second one is just enroll in asset management certifications. Just helps to deeply, you deeply understand certain concepts or boost your knowledge. Also, another one is attending conferences. It helps, like the IAM conference or the TRB conference, or seminars or workshops. Or just interact with other like minds and see how AM is evolving in their own respective industries. It can help to just put those initiatives back in. For quick wins. The other one is just seeing like what vendors have for like asset planning and things like that. Some of us really have our own in-house, but sometimes things get better, right? So just think it outside the box and seeing what improvements you can have within the current existing model. And just finally, just ask questions when you're sure. If it's a project, if it's an asset, just ask questions. You get to know what you don't know, just like how everyone has stated. Yeah, so align kind of like helps you. I'll also align like capital projects with assets replacement and just easier monitoring and aligning those enterprise expectations with these capital requests coming forward. I think that's it for me.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I think there's a lot of really good insight there for people that are kind of in the beginning stages of their asset management career, which actually is myself. I've only been doing asset management consulting for just over 2 years, so there's been a lot that I've taken away from here as well. So just a reminder to everyone that's listening, if there's specific questions that you want to ask the panelists, please add them to the chat or to the question box, and we'll address them as part of this discussion. So instead of going around the table again, I want one or two of you to speak to the process of switching between asset management careers or organizations. So speaking to how did that transition go? What were some lessons learned for you that you'd be able to share with our audience? And I know Echo's got a story for this one. I'm not sure about everyone else, but we'll start with Echo, and then if anyone else wants to jump in, feel free.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Eric. So for me, switching career, particularly jumping from public to private sector, my huge lesson learned is I really focus on what the organization need is, what is the business strategy, what does the business actually want out of their asset. I'm saying this come from a position where I learned that just because you can repair something doesn't mean you should, and doesn't mean the company wants to. Focusing on the technical solution might not help to convince stakeholder whatsoever. Because coming from public sector, particularly in the defense side of things, and when it comes to international military commitment, or if particularly if there's like active war going on there, we have to send airplane overseas, participate in a war. You don't have a constraint such as you don't have money to pay for jet fuel. You just fly the airplane and then figure it out what does it take, and somebody will write you a check. That doesn't work in manufacturing. You want to repair assembly line, but if your sales volume is not there, the profitability is not there, the business might want you to recommend something such as disassembling it, decrease capacity, or just let the asset kind of just sit there and rot until the next opportunity to reevaluate. So that connection between what you need to do on your physical asset to the business requirement and then to the business strategy is very, very crucial to this line of work and to make that jump, to make it successful. So when I was navigating through different organizations and then doing interview or networking and trying to convey to people what kind of skill set that I can bring onto the table, I kind of emphasize now more on a broader range, not only about the technical skill set, technical knowledge, but also what I can do to serve as a gap, serve as the bridge to close the gap between what does the technical people want to accomplish, what does the sell people want to accomplish, and what does the business actually need from a long-term strategic point of view. So I think that is very critical in navigating your asset management career and then jumping from organization to organization and moving across sector. And I think this is the value of the asset management is that kind of is that soft skill, that approach, that close the gap, and that is transferable anywhere. So that's what I have.
Yeah, that's great insight, Echo. I think that's the first thing that you said is focusing on the organizational need. And I think sometimes we can get lost in, we have these grand ideas, but really we need to focus on what do they need? What do you need as an organization and honing in on that is really important. So yeah, thanks for sharing that story. Does anyone else have an experience that they want to share about switching between industries or organizations?
I can add some things. Well, Echo
Yeah.
said a lot of things that was similar to my experience. But what surprised me the most when I moved to the private sector is I have to broaden my perspective on asset management. It was really more technical, and now I have to work with clients for all kinds of organizations, especially the different realities and scales also. So having to learn to listen to clients was something crucial. Staying open-minded and not being afraid to learn new things, even from your clients. So we come with an experience, but there's always much to learn. So staying humble in that is important. Um, so yeah, that's the key thing, key points. Allow yourself time to learn this new reality and to remain also open-minded.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thanks for those perspectives. Um, I'll turn the next question over to Luke and Bibi. So, what questions would be beneficial for organizations to ask new asset management hires? So, say you're the one in the room interviewing a new asset management candidate. What kind of questions are you asking them to gather? Will they be a fit for your team? Type of thing. I'll start with Luke, and then we'll go to Bibi.
Yeah, I think well, probably not really a question, but what I'd be kind of wanting to see from someone who is coming into asset management would be someone who is open to learn and wanting to kind of improve themselves through time. Because I know it's not necessarily asset management orientated, but I hired a new guy into my team last year who spoke to me quite a lot about how he was learning machine learning skills outside of work and just enjoyed doing those. And I thought, well, that sounds like a guy that wants to develop and understand more as they go through. So I think for me, the first and foremost, it's that energy and wanting to learn more, not necessarily about technical skills, but also about what other customers, or rather what other organizations are doing across the world. And I think the only other thing I'd probably state is kind of around kind of common trends as well. So people that want to support with things like the energy transition, things around aging kind of staff, as well as aging assets, which of course are common problems that we have in the industry. Anyone that's got the drive to want to support in all of these things that are always in the news and so on as well, would be kind of key things for me that I'd want to understand more from people about.
Yeah, that's really good. So just jumping back to the lifelong learner. So you talked about a person being kind of sharing what they're learning, and that would be something that would come up, like that they would be looking to weave into an interview setting, I guess. Do you have any techniques on how to weave that into a conversation?
So I'm trying to think actually how the interview went now, but really the of course you've got the common questions that people ask around kind of what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, those types of things.
Mhm.
But for me it's kind of, well, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That sort of question, because um, it doesn't need to be a correct answer either. It's more just to understand how you see your career going, whether you're wanting to just come in and just do a certain job, and that's also fine. But but people who are wanting to progress and learn, of course, will be a big benefit to an organization, because especially when you're working with different organizations, as we do, you need to learn a lot about what they're doing across industries. There are similarities, but there are also a lot of differences. So that drive to learn is key for me.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thanks, Luke. BB, over to you. So what questions would be beneficial for an organization to ask to new asset management hires? What would you be looking for?
For me, just with my own personal experience, I think I would like to understand why they think AM is important. Just understanding the person's knowledge and on asset management, and just aligning to see why what's driving the application for the job per se, because asset management is a very unique career. Not a lot of people understand its importance. Some people, and it's also applicable to finance, tech, and different other industries. So just understand, like from a public sector point of view, you have to understand like what our assets are and how unique they could be and the importance. So it doesn't necessarily land them the job, but just at least saying what ideas they have, preliminary ideas they have, and why. More importantly, is their skills, skill set, and like communication, for instance, because asset management, you must communicate to people. You're not really at the center. You're at the center of the organization's asset management, but you have operators, you have other decision makers, you have other, like for instance, you do a SAMP, for instance, you need some engagement with other teams, right? You need to get the buy-in. If not, you can't really fully implement it. You might just put it as a stamped document, but it's nobody's, people might not follow it. Then also just open, that openness to willingness to learn, and also drive to learn, like conferences, workshops, see how just letting the person know, okay, this, and also explaining things like you need patience sometimes. Just like, for instance, within my industry, you need patience to get some set information. There's some things I want to develop renewal plans, but I need to get that information from the operating company, like the asset information in terms of like maybe the current condition or the asset useful life, or things like that. You need patience. Sometimes they're busy with other things, like some maintenance requests. You just need some patience, and also change. How you gonna, address like change management, because sometimes you roll out new ideas, you need people's buy-in, just so that it can be successful. So these are the kind of things like I want to see in like somebody, and just know that, okay, these are the challenges you might have, while doing this job, and just make sure they aligns with the person's expectations or thoughts. Yeah, that's it
Yeah,
for me.
that's great. I think asset management is so much communication. Communication is so important to be able to explain the value that it provides, especially to anyone within an organization that might be on the fence or is not really sure, right? So I think that's a great point, BB, to bring through. Awesome. Well, that's that. Those are some great perspectives on what might be asked in an interview, or what some of the leaders here are looking for in an asset management person joining their organization. So this next question will be to everyone, and it revolves on how can companies support their new staff better to ensure that they stay in the asset management industry. So Luke, you touched on there's a lot of people aging out of the asset management industry. How can organizations support their new people so that they stay and they can help that transition? So we'll start with you, Luke, and then we'll go around the table.
No problem. Yeah, I think, of course, first and foremost, as we've already discussed, training is key, as well as lots of different skills that we need to be able to ensure that people are being supported and don't feel overwhelmed in terms of what they're doing. But I think first and foremost for me is the coaching aspect of what we're doing, and Echo touched on this earlier in terms of the various bits of line management and so on. We've had new recruits, especially over the past few years, given COVID and the move to kind of remote and hybrid working, who have kind of felt isolated and distant to the rest of the organization, because you're not feeling part of a team anymore. So for me, it's making sure we have regular check-ins, kind of work with senior consultants and so on as part of the projects, helping new staff find their feet. And for us, every project that we do has a mix of both senior and junior consultants on it. So the juniors can see how a senior approaches certain questions that a customer might ask, or how they might go around configuring certain things for certain customers. And through that, of course, you're getting hands-on experience of how things work in reality. And I think the other one for me is more of a lessons learned as well from the past few years, and that's around celebrating achievements. So for us, as with many other organizations, you're rolling on and off lots of projects when you're working. And again, it might feel very overwhelming. You might get to a certain level where you're being asked to do quite a lot more responsibility sits on your shoulders once you've learned a lot more. So for me, when I'm talking about celebrating achievements, it's not necessarily financial incentives, which is the one that most people go to. It's more of that camaraderie of having drinks or a nice meal together and kind of just celebrating the fact that, yeah, we've just done this $10 million project or whatever it is that we've done, and we've finished it, guys. We've met all the acceptance criteria. So just being able to, I guess, vent and debrief and do that lessons learned rather than just rolling on to the next thing. Just make sure that you're being supported, you feel part of a team, and you all learn together rather than just kind of going from one thing to the next, basically.
Yeah, that's great. I know for myself, it's when you're putting in long days, long hours, celebrating that when it's all finished does really feel valuable overall. So awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Luke. Francis, how can companies better support their new staff to stay in the asset management industry?
Yeah, Luke covered it very well. So yeah, training, support, coaching, but maybe an important point for support, especially for the asset owners, would be to give their asset manager the means to make an impact. So yes, it's important to dedicate people to asset management, but they can't do the work alone. So it will require a lot of collaboration throughout the organization. So it's essential to empower these asset managers to enable them to gather information, mobilize people all across the organization to ensure progress. So that could be a really better environment for an asset manager to have an impact by doing so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think the empowerment is huge. So we'll turn that over to the two asset owners on the call here. Start with Echo.
So for me, I also wanted to I agree with everything that Francis and Luke said, but I also wanted to add one more layer to it. I think succession planning is also very important for an organization. I learned this in the aerospace industry because to take a pilot from pilot school to make it on type and also technician takes forever. And the moment they get qualified, they jump ship. You literally see like $1 million walk out of the door. So I just wanted to highlight for people internally, if they rotate through certain positions and as long as they stay within the company, that might not necessarily be a bad thing as long as you succession plan it correctly. So first thing I would just say, talk to your employee, listen to them to see what they want, what make them happy to be at a job, and then what they want out of their career. Some people are happy, they come in, they do their work, and they leave work and they go home because they have other priority. Some people, they want to feel like they're contributing towards a bigger mission, a bigger cause, and then they wanted to eventually change the world. And some people have some ambition to climb the ladder, but not all the way up. And some people want to climb all the way up. So how does it work? And then compare that to organization need. Do you need that next leadership keep coming in and out? Do you need technical expert? Do you need certain people excel in a certain area? How does the two things align? And work with your employee, because on the employee side, it takes a lot of effort to look for a new job, and it adds a lot of layer of stress. We don't want to do that. But also on the employer, like hiring is a $5 million question. That's being widely advertised by Harvard Business School. So we don't want to hire the wrong employee either. So kind of work with the employee. I think that will actually help advertise to them about what kind of career path they can have in the organization. If your company that's really large, there is a spot for everyone that look for a certain type of work they want to feel fulfilled in their working profession. So work with them, map it out with them, and then manage expectation accordingly, right? Like I'm talking about if you have an entry-level job that has a certain pay gap between the average median cost of living in your geographic area, then do have that realistic expectation that people are going to rotate in and they're going to move on to better thing. But if the compensation is not a problem, it's more about job fulfillment, then you can work with your employee to actually make them work. It's really easy win-win situation. So that's kind of the comment that I have on this, and I kind of learned it from my airplane time. Because it just takes so long to get a technician or pilot or flight engineer to train on type, and we really want to retain them once they get there.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. I think succession planning is huge, right? You're investing all that training, the coaching, all that kind of stuff. That's time that you're spending in them, investing in the people, but you want them to stay, right? So that's great. So making sure that they're along with for the journey, and then they know what opportunities are out there, and then making sure that you actually follow through with those opportunities when they present themselves as having the skills required. That's great. Thanks, Echo. BB.
Yeah. So just to add to what everyone has said, great points, by the way. But just from my own point of view, given that AM is very relevant, it's a very relevant division in any service industry, right? Ensuring that the AM team is actually the appropriate departments. The reason why is because you can create, you can make an impact, and also this includes like avoiding bias and also ensure equitable decision making process. If you're making a decision, you know that is, you actually applied equity to it, and not just favoring certain departments over the other, certain people over the other. Then coaching is also a very big one. So just supporting and encouraging people to attend conferences and seminars, webinars, seminars, workshops, anything, and just driving AM recommendations within from the enterprise level, and that's probably from the senior management also. Just when you get some recommendations for any asset management initiative, it's good to always drive it, especially when you see the positives in what is being done. Yeah. So I think that's it for me.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great feedback from everyone here. So that is all the questions that have come through and that are on the list. I tried to work in some of the ones that have come through from the audience. But yeah, really want to thank everyone for their time today. I think it was a great discussion overall, and the recording will be available for people to watch if they weren't able to make the session. So we'll be making a post related to that as well. So yeah, just want to thank the panelists for their time and the great discussion today. Have a good afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on where you're tuning in from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Cheers.